So just quickly to introduce our speakers for tonight, we've got Dewi Winkle, who again, I'm sure many of you know already. Dewi's been organising events for many years. He's been a swim guide, and obviously he's one of the original founders of the Scilly Swim Challenge. So Dewi is going to have a quick chat to you about the history of the event and the event ethos, which is so important. And then Dewi will hand over to Beth French, who again, we're really excited to have on board as an ambassador, done the event many times. Beth, if you don't know, was the first person to swim the 26 miles from Cornwall to Scilly in skins back in 2014, is that right? Absolutely amazing. And Beth will be speaking about her approach to swimming and her approach to this event, and I'll be sharing some training tips. After Beth, we're going to pass over to Emily Woodley, who amazingly has swum the Scilly Swim Challenge 8 times. Emily is also a coach in the Southwest, a swim coach, and Emily's going to share some tips on preparation and also what to pack, which I assume by now is fairly finely tuned after the 8th time. After Emily, we've got Keri-anne Payne, who we're really excited to have on board as an ambassador for the event. And also excitingly, Keri-anne's going to be swimming the event this year. Is that right? Yes, scared face. I'm sure you all know, but Keri-anne is obviously a silver Olympic open water medalist. Really excited to have Keri-anne involved. Right, that's enough from me. I'm going to hand over to Dewi, who can introduce the event. Oh, do I need to unmute you? Probably. You've gone away. Are you speaking? We can't hear you. Okay, hold on. There we go.
Brilliant. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Everyone looks quite rosy after a nice warm day, which is fantastic, whether you're abroad or you're in England or Wales, Scotland, Ireland, or out in the islands. I hope you all had a great day. It's really nice to be on this call. It's the first time we've done it like this, and to have so many people on is wonderful. 9 years ago, Nick, Brian and myself were sitting having a coffee in Mincala, which they guest out on the Isles of Scilly, and we looked out and we thought, God, wouldn't it be great to swim around the Isles of Scilly in a day? So that's how we came about with the event, and it started off very small. We've had a lot of challenges. We really had to sort of find our way over the years, to the point now where we've obviously got 150 people on both the 2-day and the 1-day event. And then we've also had the swim around St. Mary's as well in the past, which might be something for the future, which SwimQuest will be looking at. The whole reason for the event was obviously the passion for open water swimming, which I know all the people on here now have. And we wanted to create an event that allowed both wetsuit and non-wetsuit swimmers to be swimming together and to just break boundaries. So we felt that there was a sort of up and coming tide of people saying that you had to either be wetsuit or non-wetsuit. And we just wanted to break those boundaries and make it a really inclusive event. So that's how it started out, and we've retained that ethos throughout. And as Alice mentioned there, bringing SwimQuest on with JCR and herself and the rest of the team is absolutely ideal because we share that ethos. So the 10 miles in a day, obviously broken down into 5 swims. The Isles of Scilly are just an incredibly beautiful place. I describe it as the cold water Caribbean because it is just, the views are incredible, the beaches are beautiful, the water is beautiful, albeit it's a little bit colder than a lot of people expect. And I always say it's between sort of 13.5 and 15 degrees Celsius. So for some, that'll be tropical. For others, it'll be a little bit chilly. And I'll let the other speakers sort of explain about how to do a bit of acclimatizing. What's incredible about the event, and something that we're really passionate about, is that it is a team event. So whilst there are up to 150 swimmers, there's also a really big support team of up to about 70 people, which includes the kayakers, the boat safety, the land support, the baggage boats, the medics, everything that's involved in getting everyone around the islands in a day or over the 2 days. And we very much treat the event like a team challenge. So you'll see everybody gets involved, everyone talks to each other, there's no them and us. At one point, you might be asked to help a kayaker move a kayak across a beach. You might have to hold onto a boat because it's just about to ground. You know, throughout the day, we're all involved in getting the whole event around the islands. So that's very much the ethos that we've retained over the years, and we really love that side of the event. We don't always get around, and it's worth saying that. Obviously, we are in the hands of the gods with regards to the weather, and we just accept that. What I will always say to everyone is, you go into the Isles of Scilly, you will swim and you will be challenged. And I'm sure Beth and Emily will support that when they speak to you later on in this webinar. I would just come with a really open mind, really relaxed. Make sure you chat to everyone. If there's someone on the boat or on the plane next to you, ask them if they're swimming, because it works out about every other person coming over about a 2 or 3 day period doing the event. So really make the most of it, share the experience, and I look forward to seeing you in September, and keep smiling, keep swimming. Thank you very much.
My turn. Hi, everyone. So yeah, I'm a skin swimmer exclusively, not because I'm a purist, but I'm rubbish at swimming in a wetsuit. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the ethos, a little bit about cold water acclimatization from the perspective of a skin swimmer, and some hints and tips on how to approach the challenge from a skin's perspective. Emily and Keri-anne will talk to you a bit more about how to approach it from a wetsuit perspective, and Emily's going to talk for packing side of it. Hopefully she'll sort of talk about the skins as well as the wetsuit, the differences for what to pack. But from my perspective, so yes, I swam from Cornwall to the Isles of Scilly. Just so happens that that was the first year that Nick, Dewi and Bri thought it was a good idea to try and get 150 people around the Isles of Scilly in a day. And I was so honoured that they asked me, you know, crazy person who is a silly swimmer, to come and be the ambassador. And it really was a growth experience for everybody. And I don't know what they were expecting. I thought they must have thought I was going to be some Keri-anne Payne sporty athletic type. And I just like going for big swims, really. So from my perspective, I, as the ambassador particularly, I have always championed the slowest swimmers and the less confident swimmers. And the thing that I love the most about this event is it does throw elite swimmers in with people who have taught themselves to swim only a couple of years before, or people who this is their last ditch attempt before they have a hip replacement. We're all thrown in together and we've all got to try and make it round. So I will reiterate the fact that you need to watch Dan's kayak support and safety video, because that explains the pod system. Now, the pod systems are semi-self-regulating, so you decide how fast you swim, and the acclimatization swim is a really useful way of doing that, because you can feel where you're most comfortable being. You do not have to stay in that pod. If you find that you are swimming much faster over the shorter distances, but you want to drop into a slower pod, talk to the event organisers. There may be some movement. Also, if you find that you are racing ahead, you may be held back. So it is not a race. Try and buddy up with people who swim at a similar speed to you. 4 people are much easier to keep an eye on than 4 separates who are going in different directions. If you find yourself dropping to the back of your pod, you may be nudged by one of the back kayak or one of the safety boats, and they will give you a little bit of a mechanical assist. Do not think that being asked to hop on a boat to be dropped forwards is in any way a failure. It is not. This is not a race. This is not, you have to swim all of it in order to achieve it. The only reason you'll be lifted forwards in a pod is for safety perspective. If the breadth and the depth of your pod gets so much that the safety can't cover you, you may just be lifted forwards. You will be able to get back in the water as soon as it's safe. You will be able to complete as much of the swims as you are able to do. Don't worry, don't give them a hard time. It's not something that they're doing because you're failing. I have always swum with the slowest person. always. Partly because I don't want to swim fast, because I'm not that fast a swimmer, but also because I think it's important to respect the fact that whilst you may be an elite athlete and be able to swim this 10 miles, not as fast as Keri-anne, but with a decent speed, actually people who are swimming right at the back of the green pod, they're in the water. I mean, sometimes over the 2-day and the 1-day event, I will have spent 16 hours in the water over the 3 days. And that's an awfully long time, which leads me on to cold water acclimatization. So as a skin swimmer, it is very important to note that the sea at the moment in England, in the UK, around the mainland of the UK, is somewhere between 12 and 15 degrees now. If you can, you need to be trying to get in the water now, because this is how warm it's going to be in the Isles of Scilly in September. By the time we get to September, mainland is going to be 16 to 18 degrees most places. It's going to be warmer than the Isles of Scilly. It's fine to train in that temperature, but you need to have at least experienced what it's going to feel like and what your body is going to do when it walks into 13, 14 degree water. Start slow, start short, and try and have somebody, if they're not getting in the water with you, at least shore watching you. If in doubt, breathe out hard, take your time, and make sure you have an exit strategy. So you have warm water or a hot drink waiting for you when you get out of the wind as soon as you can, get dried, dressed, and move. And one of the biggest differences with this event to many other events is because you're not swimming 10 miles in one go. And most people think that because you're swimming shorter distances, just doing it lots of times, it's going to be easier. But actually, one of the most challenging things is, I mean, on a day like today, if the weather was like it is today in September in the Isles of Scilly, the swims are lovely cool downs. But if you could get a breezy day or a wet day on the Isles of Scilly and you're doing the swims, swimming in 13 degree water, getting out, being still so everybody collects together, getting dressed and walking across, you get colder and you get tired and you get stiffer. So it's very important for your training that you practice swimming, getting out, getting dressed, having a drink, something to eat, having a little walk up and down the beach, getting back in the water again. It's a very, very, very different sensation getting in for your second or third swims. If you don't have that long, or because it's quite cold at the moment, it is even more important to swim 3 10-minute swims with breaks to warm up in between time at the moment than it would be to try and swim a 30-minute swim at the moment. Getting in, getting out, dry, dressed, walking, getting in, getting out and doing it again, that will help you practice packing so that you know what's important. So you have reverse pack, so you know what you want at the top of your bag when you're shoving things in. It helps you get that sensation of getting back in the water when you're not quite feeling as warm as you could be. All of those things need practice. If you can't get in the sea very often, get in whatever, rivers or lakes if you can. Cold showers can help. Anything you can do to help prepare you for what it's going to feel like. You don't want to experience anything new on the day. You can also, so I'm a skin swimmer, so for skin swimmers, stay dry, stay warm as long as possible when you get there in the morning, whether it's the 1-day or the 2-day event. You will be allowed to keep your dry robe on until the last minute. So you'll have everything else packed in your bag. That will go on the baggage boat. You will then stand in your dry robe on the shore in your pod, having checked in. At the last minute, they will have sort of laundry bags or dumpy bags that you then, when your pod is about to get in the water, you disrobe, that goes into the boat, one of the last safety boats, and they will meet you at the other side. So you'll then get straight into your dry robe. Please mark your dry robes with your name, with a tag, with a fluorescent unicorn horn tied to the top, because there will be a lot of dry robes and you want to make sure that you end up with yours at the end of the day. Not that anybody else's dry robe isn't great, but you want to get in it as soon as possible. I'll let Emily talk about the fact that you will be carrying your food and drink with you, but particularly for skin swimmers, make sure you have a decent sized, really good thermal flask or sippy cup that doesn't leak, because having a mouthful of warm fluid as soon as you get out as you're getting dressed is really, really important. Your kayakers are your best friends and the safety guys are fab. Please do watch Dan's video. It does explain a lot. It does feel very strange when you're podded together, but it's really important that you chat. So you might not be swimming in the same pod as your partner or your best mate or your training companions if you swim at different speeds. It's important that you swim in a pod where your speed is comfortable and sustainable. You can use fins, I think that's right, isn't it? Yeah, you can still use fins, and you can use snorkels, and you can use paddles, that's fine. You will have to carry them, and there is a baggage size allowance, so take that into account. You can also, some of the wetsuit wearers choose to, there's the shortest swim's about 800 meters. Some of the wetsuit wearers even choose to have a good challenge for themselves and swim skins for one of the shorter swims. That's absolutely fine. Bear in mind, if you're not sure whether you want to be a skin or a wetsuiter, take your wetsuit just in case. Yes, you have to carry it, but one of the worst things is getting to the, say, the long swim, which is like 5 and a bit kilometers, all told. You don't want to be doing that and realizing, actually, I wish I'd bought my wetsuit. So if in doubt, wear a wetsuit. There is no, you're harder if you don't use the wetsuit. You're no better than anybody else if you don't use fins. This is all about challenging yourself. And at the end of the day, you will be a channel swimmer. You know, you will be experiencing tides and currents and managing safety boats alongside you. If you have the chance and you have somebody that can either go in a paddleboard or a kayak alongside you for a swim, see what it feels like. If you get nervous in any of the swims, heads up breaststroke for a minute, just to take sight of where you are. It can feel very isolating, particularly on the long swim, because that's the one where you really do have the open ocean off your right shoulder. It can feel quite daunting, and that can be where you get a bit of a swell. Even though you might not be able to see anybody if you're in the trough of a wave, kayakers will be able to see you, the safety boats will be able to see you, they are higher up. So heads up, wait till you get to a peak of a wave, look around and see where you can see somebody, swim to them. Always try and gather together in a little pod. Make somebody your best mate. You may not be the best at sighting or navigating, in which case, talk to other people, find people who find it easy, swim near them. If you're really struggling, swim near a kayaker. If you are having a moment where you think, I don't know whether I can do this, heads up, put your hand in the air. One of the kayakers or one of the safety boats will come over, talk to them. Let them talk to you and give you more confidence. You won't realize how visible you are when you're in the water. Breathe, enjoy the scenery, take in the sights. Don't feel you have to struggle this on your own. We are all in it together, and everybody will be wishing you the best. And some of the best parties I've had have been on a party boat of the back safety crew, where people have been lifted forwards. And some of the best stories have come out from people huddling in shared dry robes, talking as they're getting a little mechanical lift forwards. And it's just such an amazing event. You will all get together on the islands to walk across together. And that's an amazing chance to talk to people from all walks of life who are doing this amazing thing. And I think you're all incredible for having a go. And most people who do this event come back at least once to do it again. If the weather's great, it's heaven. If the weather's not great, it's a massive challenge. So enjoy yourselves and make the most of it. Thank you very much.
Great. Over to Emily.
Thanks, Alice. So hi everyone. Yes, I've done the Scilly Swim Challenge 8 times, lots of different routes, all very exciting and all very challenging, and as people said before, a real team effort. I'm a wetsuit swimmer normally. I've been doing a little bit of skins over the winter, which has been interesting insight for me, but wetsuit swimmers can still get cold, so remember what Beth said about warming up when you get out of the water, because it can happen to wetsuit swimmers too. And help everyone out. So if you're all trying to get changed and someone's a little bit shivery and you're all warm and ready, go and help them out, go and help them get changed. I'm going to move on to talk about kit. I have packed a kit bag. This is a 35 litre dry bag. It has everything in it, probably that a skin swimmer would want and a wetsuit swimmer would want. We have a limit of size, and there are going to be some wonderful people on the baggage boat who are going to be looking after your bag. So try and make sure it has as few straps on it as possible, and that you've got enough space in it. But I'm gonna run through basically what my kit is, and hopefully I'll remember all the skin swimmer stuff as well. So if you're wearing a wetsuit, you'll want to bring your wetsuit with you. I would just say, Beth said, check, do some training before you come down. So do a swim, walk, swim. Try all of your kit before you leave for the Isles of Scilly. Check your wetsuit. If it's got any holes in it or any rips in it, then make sure that you've mended it as best as you can before you come down. And if you are worried that it might rip, then bring some gaffer tape or something that you might be able to fix it with. So walk in your kit, swim in your kit, eat what you're going to eat that you're going to take in your lunchbox, drink the drinks that you're going to drink when you get out of the water and before you get back in again. If you're somebody who likes having some energy gels, try taking an energy gel when you're treading water, just so that you've practiced it, and then figure out where you're going to put the rubbish afterwards. So practice in your kit before you come. Most importantly, bring a spare pair of goggles, because you won't be able to get them down there. So wetsuit. You may want booties or little socks to bring with you to keep your feet warm. You might swim with gloves, so you might want to bring those as well. This is for skins and wetsuit swimmers. You might have like a thermal hat that you wear, possibly. You'll need a swimming costume. Skin swimmers will need probably one costume per swim. And in your bag, you will want to have a bag for wet kit, a waterproof bag for dry kit, and I would suggest putting all your drinks in a dry bag or in something inside your bag just in case they spill, and all your food in a hard cased thing. So I'm just going to pull stuff out of the bag so you can see that it is all actually in there. So there's a towel there should you need one. If you're wetsuit, you're probably not going to need a towel for most of the day. You might want to bring a little flannel, a little lightweight towel if you're going to get changed. But if you're a wetsuit swimmer, then you're probably going to be in your wetsuit for most of the day. You might want to bring a rash vest or something to stop any sunburn if it's really hot, and you roll your wetsuit down. So what else have I got in here? I've got, I'll talk through them as we'll use them. Bag of dry clothes. So when you're going to go in the water, you will want the swimming costumes in here, just showing you that they will come out of there. So you will want I have a little bag which I keep all my swimming kit in just before I get in the water. And if you think head, shoulders, knees and toes, and then you'll try and remember everything that you need to put on. So when you sign in, you will be given a red, green or amber hat to swim in. That will be your pod. You'll be given a corresponding ribbon to go on your bag. And as long as you put it on your bag will be in the right pile when you get out of the water at the other end of the swim. So you will have your swimming hat. You will want your goggles, and you will want maybe a spare hat. If you've got a particularly large head or lots of hair, you might want to bring, these hats fit most people, but if you've got particular issues, you might want to bring a hat of the colour of the pod that you think you might be swimming in. So if you're super speedy, you might want to bring a red one. If you're in the sort of somewhere in the middle, you might want to bring an amber one. These are really big and flexible just in case they don't fit. So swimming hats, goggles. I have a little ring saver just so that my ring doesn't end up in the bottom of the Atlantic. Spare goggles and a spare hat. These goggle cases are really good because you can put your sunglasses in them when you're swimming and they won't get squashed when they go in the boat. What else have I got in here? This is a kind of all the kit you might possibly want, but not everyone's going to use all of it. If you use a nose clip, bring one with a little string on it. I don't know if you can see, otherwise that might float off and you won't get it back. If you've got earplugs, bring earplugs. but put them away somewhere safe if you're eating jelly babies, because they don't taste very nice. You might want some Glide or some Vaseline or something. Try and bring a small pot because you want to save on weight as much as possible, or use half the stick before you get here, and then you'll be carrying that round. Sun cream. You want to make sure you protect bits of your face, and if you're not swimming with socks or boots on, put some on your ankles, otherwise you'll end up with brown socks for the whole year. What else is in here? I've got an energy gel which goes up the leg of my wetsuit, or might you want to tuck it in your swimming costume. I've got some energy blocks which I sometimes use when I get in, just to give a little boost of energy at the end of the day. I've also got a little bit of goggle demister, but this is just a little bit of baby shampoo in a little bottle with some water in it. And I had a real problem with foggy goggles last year, and I've never had a problem since I do that. So a little bottle of that, a couple of drops inside the goggle lenses, and then rinse them out before you put them on your face, if you use that kind of thing. But again, practice with your kit before you come down. So that's getting into the water. What have I forgotten? Fins, maybe, if you want to wear them, but don't bring the enormous free diving fins, because you won't be very popular. If you're going to bring fins, bring the smaller ones, and again, practice in them before you arrive. So what else might we want in the water? You might, if you're used to swimming with one, you might want to bring a tow float. They're not compulsory, but some people train in them, some people swim with them. So remember to bring it, and bring the strap. Always clip the strap up so you don't lose. Yeah, Beth, do you want to? I haven't got to the bottom of the bag yet, but yeah. Okay, right. So what are we talking about? Fins, tow float, watch. Bring your watch and your charger if you need to. We've done, and other bits and bobs. So out of the water, you will want a dry robe or something similar. They come in all shapes and sizes. If you haven't got one of your own, then potentially you might want to bring one. Beth, did you want to talk about swimming, swimming? Do you want to, is there something that I've missed that you might want to pack?
Yeah, very briefly. So there's lots of the kit there that won't be applicable for skin swimmers. The main difference is going to be, I don't know if you wetsuit wearers wouldn't need for something like thermals. So if you're a skin swimmer, the easiest way of doing it is, so obviously you won't need to take things like wetsuit. Yeah, so booties and things like that. But so between the swims, what I tend to do is I have some eskies or a base layer, basically. So that's what I wear. As soon as I get out, I put on, rough towel dry, put on either eskies, which are fantastic because they actually, A, they're comfortable, and B, they wick away the water, and as you're walking across the islands, dry pretty quick. So that would be literally the main thing that I would pack with, instead of lots of the kind of technical kit for the wetsuit wearers. That's my main difference. So for skin swimmers, make sure you have a very thin, very light but warm outfit that you can put on, because obviously even though you'll be wearing your dry robe, that will get damp after the third or fourth swim. You need to have a base layer. They pack down really small, they're light, but really, really key for skin swimmers.
So thanks, Beth. So I've used these like thermal sock type things. So they're really fluffy on the inside. They're awful for collecting sand. When you get home, you have to empty out the washing machine. But these are quite warm. You can put them on your feet and you can wear them underneath sandals or whatever it is that you might want to be wearing. So clothes, when we get out of the water, your dry robe, a towel, small towel, whatever you need to cover your modesty. And then if your skins, as Beth just said, warm clothes. So some nice warm socks, some layers, thin merino thermal layers are quite good, 1, 2, 3 layers. Pair of trousers, maybe even a pair of waterproof trousers. Those are windproof, so if you need to kind of warm up and you've got really cold, a jumper or maybe a fleece if you can fit one in. Gloves, got my hat somewhere, a nice woolly hat, which you can pop on top of your swimming hat to keep the heat in for a bit until you've warmed up. Yeah, extra thermal layers for skin swimmers. But again, test it all out before you come. Use stuff that you can get into really easily, especially if you're wearing skins. You don't want stuff that's going to get stuck, that's a bit small and you've got to squeeze into. So wear something that's really comfy and loose. Shoes. If you're wearing a wetsuit, you're going to have wet legs probably for most of the day. So sandals or trainers or something that's lightweight that you can walk in. I walk in quite big trainers, sandals, because I need a bit of extra support under my feet. But flip-flops are fine. Or you might not want to wear walking boots because that's going to take up a lot of your 6 or 7 kilos we want to try and aim for in our bags if possible. And remember, things get wet. So if you can bring a thin or a quick drying towel rather than a normal toweling towel, or bring a flannel to get rid of some of the water and then have a warm layer on top. Towels get wet and then they get heavy and then you have to carry them and they're not much fun putting on a wet towel. What else might we need? Little dry bag to put wet kit in for everybody. A mini first aid kit. So there will be medics there, but they won't be giving you a paracetamol if you've got a headache or something. So if you've got, make sure you bring your personal meds with you, and obviously talk to the medics when you're down there if they need to know about something. But the stuff that I have in my little kit, I have a little thing of Savlon or cream. I have a couple of antiseptic wipes. I have some painkillers. I have some Imodium, just in case. If you've eaten something or swallowed a lot of seawater or something happens, that's quite useful. And I've got some cash in my first aid kit as well, just in case there's a bit of hedge veg or some fudge or an ice cream or something on the way around that you want to get hold of. So small first aid kit, doesn't have to be big, but just cover a few little things that you might need on the way around. Drinks. So Beth said, skins, you're probably going to want to bring a bigger, slightly bigger flask, or maybe 2 with something warm in. These bottles tend to keep the heat in really, really well, but just be careful when you open it for the first time, because sometimes it can be really hot. You don't want to burn your mouth. And if you're on the one day, you will have a chance to fill up flasks. So if you're bringing hot chocolate sachets or something, just make sure you can get them in through the top of the thermos flask. And you've practiced doing that, and do it somewhere where it's not windy, otherwise it won't be very chocolatey when you actually come to drink it. You'll want a water bottle, a lightweight water bottle that hopefully doesn't leak. And then again, I've got some extra energy drinks or energy gels, but the best way of fueling is eating some food that you like eating. And this is the last thing, other than my hat, to come out of the bottom of the bag, is a lunchbox. So try and bring something with a hard-sided case, unless you want squishy bananas or squishy sandwiches. And in there, you want to bring a range of things. So maybe some cake, maybe some biscuits, maybe I use some little fruit bars. Those are quite nice. Maybe some sweets, some sandwiches. I haven't mentioned that already. Probably not a pasty. They don't tend to be very easily digestible. But in terms of the one-day event, I jotted down earlier what I've had in my food thing. Have a look. Something that you can have at each stop. So I had a sandwich in there. I had a couple of fruit bars. I had some Jaffa cakes, a few little bits of cake, banana, some hot chocolate sachets. But again, start trying out now what you can eat within half an hour of getting back into the water again. That's not going to make you feel sick. You're not going to be tasting it for the rest of the day. And on food, I would just make sure that you eat something that you're familiar with the night before, just to settle your stomach down and give you a bit of energy. So I'm just going to go through my list and just check I've not forgotten anything. there's lots of stuff, but it does all fit in the bag. Try and go small. Oh, camera, you might want to bring your camera or your phone, but if you're going to bring those, bring it in something that, because the bags will get chucked about a little bit. So make sure that they're protected. Either wrap them up in the towel or wrap them up in something. It is a Mary Poppins bag. It's a bit smaller than my original Mary Poppins bag, Keri-anne, which was this big, which I almost kind of disappeared into. But this one, if you've got a bigger one, then just pack it and roll it down so it's not so big for the guys on the baggage boat to do everything. So just one other thing about first aid kits. If you are susceptible to jellyfish stings, and if you are, that we don't see lots of them, but you might, if you react to them, then you might want to think about some antihistamines. But I'm not a medical person, but if you've got some, if you know that you might react to them, if you've got them in your first aid kit, that might be helpful. Done a little bit of money. So just a few other tips. Make sure you check in and check out with the people that are leading your pod. I've checked people in and out before, and it's the scariest thing when someone comes up the beach and doesn't say hello, because you're looking for them and you're hoping that they're not floating off to France or America. So when you go through the safety drill at the acclimatization swim, make sure that you check in and go through the routine properly. So you'll be checked in with a list, you'll show them your number that you'll be given, you'll go into the water. When you come out of the water, it's so important. It's the first thing you do. There may be people on the beach that you want to go and give a wet sloppy kiss to, but please check in with your pod leaders first, because they really won't be very happy if we lose people. Really important. What else? Have a good breakfast as well. Something that you like eating. Porridge is normally quite useful, but again, you'll practice all of this before you go down, so you'll know what's going to give you energy. And if you're doing a one day, you'll want to be eating something that's going to give you some instant energy, but you're also going to have to think about your last swim at the end of the day and how you keep topping up those energy levels during the day. So you might want to mix and match the food that you have. Also on drinking, because drinking water and energy drinks, of course, if you're hydrated before you start your swim, then you've got more left in your bag for going round. It's just that, you know, if you start drinking your fluids before you've left the first beach, then you're going to be limited to the amount that you've got in your bag for the rest of the challenge. So make sure you've eaten something, make sure you're hydrated when you start. You can always have a wee in the water. And I think that's pretty much it. So lots of stuff in there, but you can fit it all in one bag, but you need to practice doing it, and you're not going to need everything. It's the kit that you need that's going to make you feel warm and comfortable, and the key thing is practice with everything you're going to eat, you're going to drink, you're going to wear when you get out, you're going to wear when you get in the water. There's nothing worse than turning up, trying out something new that you've not done before. This is not the time to do it. But the safety crew are great. It's an amazing atmosphere. It's one of the most inclusive events that I know about, and it's just a fantastic place to do a fantastic challenge. So enjoy.
Lovely, thank you, Emily. That's really useful. I'll just pass on to Keri-anne.
Yeah, super useful, just really good, and I genuinely couldn't believe all the stuff you kept bringing out of that bag. It's quite impressive. I'm really going to have to practice the bag packing, which I wasn't quite expecting having to do that. But you know, everything that's been mentioned tonight is amazing, and such good information for you guys to have from people that have done it before. They've done it, they've been there, they've done it, they know what they're talking about. So make sure you take it in, make sure you watch the video back. Don't just expect, oh, I was there on the night, don't need to watch it again. Watch the video back again and again, because there's different things that have come through it. And I just wanted to say that although my past has been elite
swimming. It's not anymore. And I don't know, you know, which pod I'm going to find myself in, because the reason why, and I know that one of the reasons Alice wanted me to talk tonight was to talk about why I'm doing the swim in the first place. And I messaged her going, oh, I'm really interested. I wasn't really too sure. This is the first swim since retiring, if you like, from competitive swimming that I actually was very excited about the thought of doing. And it wasn't just because it's a beautiful place. It really is a beautiful place. For me, it's the fact that it's not competitive. A lot of people find it interesting that I didn't actually swim because I love competing. I actually hated competing. That was just a means to an end for me. It was all about being the best I could be, and racing was how I figured out how well I was doing myself, essentially. So I'm really excited about the opportunity of doing a swim, swimming as a pod, swimming together with people, going through what I think will only be described as an epic journey with everyone on land and in the water as well. I'm so excited about that. So if I am in your pod, please don't be scared of me, because I am not there to race. I am not there to swim fast. I'm there to be with you guys every step of the way, because I will be going through everything you guys are as well. There's just a couple of little things I wanted to kind of add to some of the stuff that's been mentioned tonight. And I kind of thought, actually, there's a few things, and I thought maybe I can be known as the science girl to come into this part. And I wanted to just mention a little bit around what things might be useful. And again, all of this stuff, I cannot, you know, say how important it is that both Beth and Emily said, practice, practice, practice. You've got to do this stuff many times. But from a taking on fluids perspective, so especially if we start to get cold, you might not need that sugary warm drink on your first swim, maybe not even on your second one. So what happens when we get cold is that our bodies need to warm themselves up, and the best and the easy, I'll say the easiest, it's not easy, but the quickest way our bodies can warm ourselves up is through shivering. So if you are shivering, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It means that your body is working itself to get warm. You might have a few more people making sure and checking in that you're okay. But in those moments, if you are then starting to shiver, that's when you're thinking of taking on your hot chocolates and your slightly more sugary drinks, because the body needs the fuel to, or the food, if you like, the fuel source to fuel the shivering that it needs to do in order to warm up. So if you are going to take flasks, you might want to stick with the warm water for the first few swims that you do. So definitely taking on water. We need to take on fluids as we go through, but you might stick to the warmer water. And then, you know, I loved that, Emily, about having the hot chocolate sachets. And then if you think you're starting to get cold, then definitely take in those things. Around the other thing I wanted to mention a little bit was around the cold and how our bodies, what we can be doing now to really help our bodies deal with the cold later on. At the very minimum, the minimum, and you're all going to hate me because I have to do this myself. I'm not just going, yeah, you guys go and do this. I'm going to have to do this myself as well. Go for cold showers. Now, you don't have to have the whole shower cold. You know, if it's washing hair day, you wash your hair nice and warm. You deal with all the stuff you need to do. And then the last 30 seconds, the first time, the last minute and a half, 2 minutes. If you can work yourself up to having a full cold shower, that's going to really help kind of increase the acclimatization to the cold. And essentially what's happening when we get into cold is our bodies have 3 different types of fat. We have white fat, which is kind of the fat that we get from eating McDonald's all the time. We have kind of what's called beige fat, which sounds gross, but it's kind of an in-between phase. And then we have brown fat. Now, the cold water acclimatization process is fascinating because we can change the structure of our cells to turn them from white fat into brown fat. Now, the reason you want to do that is because brown fat is our thermoregulator. That's what keeps us warm in the water. So the more cold showers you do, the more cold exposure that you can get to doing now, the more chance you've got to change the fat that's in your body into brown fat, which is going to help to thermoregulate you, which is why when people swim in the cold, you know, 10 degrees doesn't actually feel any better than 10 degrees. You're just able to deal with it slightly better. It's always going to be 10 degrees in the water. 2 other things, then I'm going to stop. But one other thing was around diet side of things. And what I would suggest is don't just go, like I was saying a second ago, don't just go with all the sugary things. You might expect and think, well, I'm doing all this stuff, I'm going to need to take on loads of sugar. Protein will be your friend. It absolutely will be your friend. So practice seeing what it feels like to have small bits of protein. So bananas, nuts, if you can have nuts, even little things like baby bells. They're really small, super compact. You know, it is cheese ultimately at the end of the day, so you will have to try swimming having eaten one and see what it feels like. But all those little things, you know, you might have that stuff when you get out the water if you've got a long walk to go. That stuff's really going to make a difference for you as well. And then having, you know, the other little bits and pieces, because what we don't want to be doing is we don't want to be like spiking up our blood sugar levels, because once we go up they have to come down, and the coming down bit's not much fun either. And then finally, it was just Emily was talking about sun cream. What you might want to look into is maybe like a zinc stick as well. That might be, especially if the weather might be warm, if you're going to be doing that 5k swim. That's what we used to use when we raced. You know, we were doing, you know, 10ks, and we were in the water for, you know, a minimum of 2 hours. So having a zinc stick that we knew would stay on just meant we didn't have to necessarily worry too much about that. You can get all sorts of colors, pink ones, kind of neutral colors, nude colors, all sorts of colors as you go through. So zinc stick would be my other thing to add to that.
That's fantastic. All right, well, we've had a few questions come through, and I'm conscious we only have 10 minutes. So just to raise one of the questions, Jill has asked how much time we have between swims. Dewi, can you hear us okay? No, hold on 1 second. Or maybe Beth or Emily, is that something
Sure.
you could answer while I just let Dewi
So
know?
between swims, so when you land on the beach, generally you have about, if it depends if you're in a red pod and you're the first person out of the water, or if you're the last person out of the green pod. So it can be quite flexible. If you're in the middle of the pack, I would say you probably have 20 minutes before you then walk across together, and the walks vary in length. And then you'll have sort of 15, maybe 20 minutes on the other side. So there is, on the one-day event, it's more compact. You may be literally, you have 15 minutes to get ready, get dressed, and then move on. If you're one of the first people out of the water, you will have longer to wait for the last person to get out of the water before you walk over. On the 2-day event, there's longer between the swims. It's much more relaxed, but get practiced at getting food in, get dried, get dressed, get ready. That's the main thing.
Great. Okay, thank you for that. Another question, how tidal are the swims, from Sarah? Is that anyone feel they can answer that?
So Dewi would be the best person to answer this, really, because they will be dealing with all of that on the day. You will be tied by the tide. You will literally, go on Dewi, you want to talk about that one?
Yeah, no, I mean, we deliberately plan the swims on what they call a neat tide. So it's not the strongest tides of the month. So we deliberately plan it for both the swims on that. So as Beth said, ideally, we're always going to have a bit of tide either slightly on the side of you or slightly behind. That's the theory. It's a very fluky place, to the islands, and sometimes you might have a bit on your side to begin with, and then you've got slightly ahead of, there's a bit of tide ahead of you. But the planning is all to do with trying to get it alongside you, either behind you or off to the side. But there will be occasions when you'll have to get through a little bit of tide. And if it's shallow water, you'll be able to see by looking down which way the seaweed's running. And we can elaborate about that on the briefing on the Friday or the Monday, depending on which event you're doing.
Lovely, thank you, Dewi. I think we covered this, but Carolyn has asked whether we can mix skins and wetsuits. I think quite a few people do that, is that right?
Yes, but you have to carry your wetsuit. So if you can't fit it in your bag, it has to be literally tied and bound, so it's not going to fall off. It has to be compact when you're going to swim your skins swim. It has to still be able to be packed, but you can alternate between skins and wetsuits. And I saw a question, skins is when you're just wearing a swimming costume, but you can wear a rash vest or a neoprene vest, and yeah, that's fine. But yeah, skins, I saw somebody ask what skins meant, and it doesn't mean literally without anything. Please wear something, but it can just be a bikini or a swimming costume.
Lovely. Does the bag have to be a dry bag, or can it be a normal swimmer's backpack from Ella?
It doesn't have to be a dry bag, but you've got to understand that it might get damp.
Yeah, it could get dropped. Hopefully not. Just have a look. How easy is it to be a spectator with children, from Juliet?
So I had my little boy come with me on the first couple of years, and had somebody with him on the spectator boat. The spectator boat isn't literally alongside you all of the time, but it does leapfrog ahead, so you can gather together on some of the swims. It's okay. It's fine. You don't get to sit beside your swimmer. You will see them swim past, and you will have to find out what pod they're in. They will not be able to wave at you because that's the signal for distress to the kayakers. So it is, and it's a beautiful thing to do. And it was lovely to have my little boy meet me on some of the beaches. But they are not literally alongside you in the spectators for the whole way. So yes, they can spectate the event, and yes, they can come along, and it is really lovely because they get to see all the islands, which is really, really nice, and do some of the walks. And particularly on the 2-day event, they can hang out at the lunchtime on the big breaks.
There is an alternative. So you could, but this is laced with a little bit of risk because it depends on what the weather's doing and the route might change. So the best option is on the spectator boat because you're going to follow wherever we're going. But you could maybe choose to go to one of the islands and then walk with them for a little bit over the island, or go to, if they're doing a 1-day event, maybe go to Tresco because you've got a bit more time and there's a bit more stuff to do. So I guess it just depends on how old the kids are and how long they want to be sat on a boat for and how good they are with the motion of the boat.
Okay. Just the next question, will we get an itinerary for the acclimatization swim the weekend? What time do we start each day, and do we know the route yet? We will be sending out a challenge pack in the next week or so keep an eye out for that, and that will cover those points. What are the average mile paces for the different pods? Again, that will be covered in the challenge pack. I don't know if anyone wants to briefly cover now.
Do you want, so roughly last year, red pod was a 28-minute mile or less, which works out at a 17.5-minute kilometre. Amber was between a 28 and a 35-minute mile, which works out at 18 to 22 minutes per kilometre. And green pod was between 35 and 40 to 45. So it's about 23 to 26 minutes per kilometre. But I'll post a little table because I know some people, I struggle to figure out what my watch is telling me and how that translates into a mile pace. So we'll post some info on that.
Brilliant. Fantastic. What is best to prevent neck crash from the wetsuit?
Yeah, whatever you're used to.
Yeah, definitely. I think just be very conscious if you don't ever go swimming in the sea. I would definitely have a go of swimming in your wetsuit in the sea because the salt water is slightly more viscous. If you're, there's more to it because of the salt. So if you do get a little bit of neck rub in your lake, then definitely go and try it out in the sea. But there are, things like the Glide or Vaseline, those sorts of things. But the other thing to consider is actually body position in the water. If you're looking up lots, you're going to cause a lot of neck rub. So have a work on your technique between now and then and try and focus on having really good body position for as much of the swim as you can, especially if you're in pods and you can see people all the time. You don't necessarily have to look forward unless you're the lead swimmer. Then you have to look forward all the time and make sure that you're not going off in the wrong direction and following the boat. But yeah, a combination of those two things I think will help, or three things with the Body Glide will help with that as well. Brilliant.
Any tips for cramp?
So an interesting one, I'll just throw this one in there. There are many different reasons why someone would get cramp. Someone might get cramp because of, they've not drunk enough, they've got, like a higher salt content in their body or not, that kind of stuff. So there's definitely loads of different things that might cause that. But one of the things I've noticed over my years of coaching and doing coaching qualifications is actually if you overbreathe for a long period of time, what happens is your extremities, so your hands and your feet, essentially start to basically give up a little bit, and that's when people start to get cramp in hands and in feet. So I would definitely, again, as you're working in your technique, also work on your breathing pattern as well. It's really interesting. You really don't need to breathe in that much when you're swimming. It's just, a bit like your land-based breathing should match your water-based breathing should match your land-based breathing. And if there's a difference, then you might need to counteract that. And if you find you get cramp, just have a go at breathing in a little less and out a little less every time you go swimming and see if that makes a difference.
Great. There's two more very quick questions and then we'll wrap up. Do all pods walk together between each swim? Yes, that's a nod from Beth. And then toe floats, any advice as to whether they're useful? I think lots of people don't swim with toe floats in this event, and there's no need to if you don't want to. Any comments from anyone?
I think yeah, I mean, if you're used to swimming with one and you find it helpful for you, then by all means take one, but they're not a flotation device, so don't rely on them for safety or anything. But if you feel more confident swimming with one, and some of them, I know some of the donut floats have a little water thing in so that you can take a drink with you if you like, but you should be, if you're drinking and eating at the stops, you shouldn't need to take anything with you other than possibly a little, I don't know, something on the longer swim. But I would just, it's personal choice really whether you use them or not, but don't rely on them as a flotation device.
And you've got to carry it with you when you walk.
Yeah.
Right, I think we're out of time. There are a few more questions and we'll just answer those on email when I send the recording around next week. The lucky winner of the dry robe bundle is Joe Stansfield. So Joe, I will be dropping you an email and you can send me your address and we'll get that sent out to you. So thank you so much everyone for joining. It's been really useful, really interesting. Thank you to all our lovely speakers. And keep an eye on our social channels for more news. Keep an eye out for your challenge pack, which will be with you in the next week or so. And if you've got any questions at all, do email us info@scillyswimchallenge.co.uk, or feel free to reach out to myself. It's alice@swimquest.uk.com. Lovely. All right, I think that's it. Have a lovely evening, everyone.
Bye, everyone. See you then.
Bye, everyone. Take care. Bye.
There was a duck on the patio.